If we look at 2020, it was like a reactionary case of trying to make sure that they kept their employees safe, making sure that they could still do business in what was a very trying economic time. 2021 saw a change in the way people work. You've got hybrid working, you've got more people working from home, and actually that's changed the way people think. Initially, it was forced upon them through various lockdowns, to the point now where employees have realised that actually this could be quite an efficient process. And then you started to see a general increase in the how can they be more efficient, specifically from a procurement and from an AP perspective. I think those who wisely invested pre-pandemic actually didn't see a massive change because they'd already got some form of automation in place. There was an element of digitisation. There was networks in place that allowed suppliers to continue submitting invoices, and for the AP team in particular to actually process those and make sure that some fragile supply chain were covered and were able to be paid on time. I've seen a definite shift towards driving suppliers to move away from sending paper and PDF. So that change and the way that the working methods have brought departments together actually made organisations think clearly about how they could be more efficient, but also how they could manage their suppliers more effectively. Large CPG, consumer packaged goods companies, providing the stock levels that we need every day. I think considering the challenge they had of getting the goods to the shelf, and I think that's a shining example of where those organisations have invested in their supply chain, invested in applications that allowed them to process their invoice more effectively. We very rarely fell short of goods on the shelves, and I think that's a shining example. Obviously, with pharmaceutical companies, I think that's another area where we should all be very, very grateful. With the vaccines coming into place, super accelerated times, again, was very important that they had the right processes set up in order for them to do that so efficiently. I think you can look at the data again from two sides. It's very easy to focus on AP and procurement, but ultimately the idea of sending an invoice to an AP team or working with the procurement to get goods paid or renewing contracts, the onus is on the supplier to actually make sure that that information is correct in the first instance. And that's been the biggest challenge for many organisations in the AP and procurement team. The other part of the data which is often missed is the fact that the supplier information, the vendor management information, was at best patchy. It was not necessarily always owned correctly. Consolidation of the AP and the procurement teams working together with that true insight of data coming in line by line level detail allowed them to improve their supplier relations, allow them to see where the trends were, allowing to see where the risk was more to the point and how they can mitigate that risk going forward. And in a very, very changing dynamic environment that we've been in the last 18 months, 2 years, it was absolutely vital that they could do their planning and forecasting and using the data and getting the understanding of where the supplier challenges were. It's a good question because ultimately you're going to look at where your risk is from a business perspective. What underpins it all is the ability to pay bills and to actually buy things in the first place. If you are poor at managing that process, the chances are that you could actually end up having risk of goods not being delivered to you on time, the risk of you not being able to do your business properly. Having a smooth, efficient finance function with transparency and visibility across all areas of the finance team, if you get that right in the first place, then other areas will naturally fall into place because other parts of the business that can get transformed into some sort of digital process may use a different type of model in order to maximize efficiencies. In finance, data transferring quickly, efficiently and effectively with visibility across all groups is going to underpin the success of the business. So if you don't have efficient processes that validates and checks the information that's coming into the business, the chances are you are going to see fraudulent activity. Investing in a platform that allows suppliers, when they're sending their invoices, to have those invoices validated and checked before they even get to the AP team, can check for duplications, can check for erroneous content, can check for things like miscellaneous lines, which mean absolutely nothing, but could be adding additional cost to that invoice. These sorts of things need to be validated validated and checked up front in order to actually reduce the level of fraudulent activity. We saw a significant amount during the 2021 period because people were taking advantage of the stress that finance teams were having if they didn't have these checks in place in the first instance. And they knew that they were potentially weak or susceptible to that kind of behaviour. Having a platform that does that validation checks will reduce significant amounts of fraud. Companies are organising their transformation projects based around older technologies, which may look cheap and give you a quick win, but ultimately that probably come back to bite them in the future, especially as there are other pressures coming from elsewhere. I think there will be automation across most large enterprises. I think the pinch within the small to medium-sized businesses is yet to be really, really felt for that, and I think that will come as well. But ultimately, I think there will be a high level of adoption and AP automation. Will it be right for that organisation? It depends on their choice up front.